Hello, our listeners. We're going to be talking about gut health and how it can play a role in our hair growth. We know that connection between thyroid and gut health is very well established, right? We know that by improving our gut health, we can improve just about every function in our body. A healthy gut translates into a healthy environment for different microorganisms to carry out their systems and processes, which we know it has an impact on everything from your thyroid, skin, to your mood, to your hair health. So can the right balance of good and bad bacteria be a game changer? If you're struggling with hair loss issue, listen to this episode till the end because I will tell you how you can get your hands on a free guide I created just for you with actionable steps you can take to improve your gut health and in turn improve your hair health. Hello, thank you for listening to Thyroid Hair Loss Connection podcast, a science-based, honest, candid conversation about how your thyroid affects your hair. You will learn practical solutions to hair growth, healing your thyroid, and balancing hormones with holistic nutrition approach and the latest treatments. Your hosts, me, Nataliia Sanzo, a registered dietitian, aka Nashville thyroid expert, and Kimberly Vaughn, a board-certified trichologist, hair loss specialist, and coach. To stay up to date on the latest topics, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We also cannot do this without you. Send us a question to the link below and tune in each week for the answers. Now, let's head to the show. Guys, Kimberly and I, we prepared so much good information for you today. And I want to start this episode off with, saying that we all think that our hair growth ideally starts from our scalp, right? I mean, that's just common sense, right? But what you don't know it's that it actually begins from our gut. Our gut microbiome can and does influence the production of certain nutrients necessary for hair growth, such as biotin and riboflavin, but also influences the regulation of certain hormones that have effect on our hair growth. So no wonder scientific world considers the gut our body's second brain. So let's talk about a few gut issues that can affect scalp and hair growth. So there are a few digestive issues. For example, if you're not eating a balanced diet, you may be low in iron, B vitamins, or zinc, right? Most people know those nutrients. Now, if your stomach acid is low, which a lot of hypothyroidism patients have that problem. So if your stomach acid is low, you may not be absorbing nutrients properly, no matter how good your diet is. Like I said, unfortunately, many people with Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune version of hypothyroidism, do not produce enough stomach acid. Another problem or digestive issues that can affect scalp and hair growth is the very fast transit time, like in problems like IBS-D, where diarrhea is very frequent. Our nutrients may miss the opportunity to be absorbed by our gut. Just moving on, a lot of people experience trauma or physical stress that may divert the energy from our hair growth. And you may notice this 2-3 months after a stressful time in your life. And we did the whole episode where we talked about COVID, how it causes hair loss. And the bottom line there was that it's not really that COVID causes hair loss, but the stress that our body undergoes when we're dealing with that infection. So next one is, of course, medication. Medication can affect our scalp and hair growth. Some antidepressant, blood pressure medication, or hormones, like contraceptive. We know a lot of those kind of medication, they can cause hair loss. It's actually on the label as a side effect. Next one is, we know this one very well, is low functioning thyroid or hypothyroidism. And of course, that leads us into immune disorders, especially undiagnosed autoimmune conditions like Hashimoto's and celiac disease. Now, if you have high levels of inflammation in the gut, which those two diseases that I just mentioned can cause that, it could be a driving inflammation in other parts of the body, such as hair follicles. And the last one, the digestive issues that affects scalp and hair growth, is our gut dysbiosis or imbalance of good and bad bacteria, which can also be the reason behind our hair shedding.
Nataliia, okay, I think I'm a little confused. So I know we have good and bad bacteria, because one of the things we also focus on in some of our testing with hair loss is the presence of parasitic issues inside the gut and the health system. But in this particular situation, you're talking about gut dysbiosis, which you said was a type of a bacteria. How is that differ, or how does that differ from gut flora?
So gut dysbiosis is actually a term to describe an imbalance of good bacteria and bad bacteria. So gut flora is just a term to describe a collection of our bacteria. So it doesn't really define good or bad. Everybody has a gut flora, and that's all. Now, when you have gut dysbiosis, that's where the problems come in. So out of the thousands of species of gut microbes that live in our gut, we have the beneficial bacteria, which help us with digestion, control our immune system, brain health. And of course, we have the pathogenic or disease-causing bacteria, which are obviously not beneficial. They feed on, guess what? Simple and refined sugars, highly processed foods, artificial sweeteners, red meat, alcohol, and the bad bacteria, tend to crowd out the good bacteria. So that's the dysbiosis explanation.
Okay, so good and bad bacteria, how do they actually affect our hair growth and our hair loss cycle?
Kimberly, as a matter of fact, our bacteria play a very vital and important role in our hair growth. The body gets all the desired nutrients for vital functioning by digesting the food we eat, right? So this digestion is possible because of the beneficial bacteria, our good bacteria, our gut flora, whatever you want to call it. So those little bugs metabolize the essential vitamins like biotin, that requires for optimal hair growth. We know that. And these bacteria, when they break down the food, they increase the production of that biotin, folic acid, and vitamins like vitamin K, B12, B3, which are, they're required for regular hair cycles and hair growth.
Nataliia, I'm so glad you bring up this point. Biotin is certainly required for proper hair growth and for supporting healthy, shiny hair. However, I think the consumer and the listener has really had a hard time understanding how does biotin fit into the entire realm of vitamin Bs. Because yes, biotin is a critical mineral and it certainly is going to help with hair growth, but it's not just biotin alone. It's truly the entire family of Bs. And so many times we find that an individual will say, well, I've been on biotin supplements for 2 years, but I don't see a difference. Well, it's because there's a lot more going on. And a small micronutrient such as biotin is not going to impact the hair at the greatest level that they're considering by just taking an off-the-store supplement of biotin.
Exactly. There was actually a very interesting study done on mice. I know a lot of people don't like that kind of research and conclusion, but it brings up an interesting point. So there was 2 mice, and first they put them on a biotin-free diet, or all the B vitamins complex, right? And the mice, they lost a lot of their hair. Then the researchers, they removed fiber from the diet and all the prebiotics, all the good food that is feeding our gut bacteria. So they starved the gut bacteria and they were not giving biotin into their diet, and the mice lost all of their hair. So then they inject the biotin, they gave the mice the shots of biotin, and the hair started growing back, which shows how important biotin and vitamin B complex, how important it is. Mm-hmm. But the hair did not come back to normal. So that's where the question comes in. What role does our gut bacteria plays if the hair did not return to its own cycle? And I think that's one of the first studies that kind of brought the light into the connection between gut and our hair. Mm-hmm. Another good example is vitamin K2, right? This vitamin is produced in our gut. So our bacteria makes that vitamin. It regulates calcium in our body. It decides where the calcium is needed and when or in what quality. So excessive calcium in the blood vessels on our scalp, for instance, may cause or interfere with the blood flow to our hair follicles. And you probably can see it on the test, the buildup on the hair follicles.
Yes. So on the trichoscopy work that we do, we look at the scalp, but then we also look at the denier and the density of the hair and see what is laying on the hair strand itself. So yes, very good point. We can see that.
Mm-hmm. So Kimberly, I think our listeners are convinced that gut microbiome plays an important role in the health of our hair. But I want to mention one more thing. The gut flora also regulates the body's hormonal balance, and that controls the different phases of hair growth. And I know you did an incredible episode describing or explaining the phases of hair growth, and you made relationship to a garden. And you guys, our listeners, make sure you go listen to that episode because it explains a lot. So Kimberly, can you tell us how exactly?
Sure. So we'll try to wrap this into a short scenario. So yes, the life cycle of the hair is very important. Just as Nataliia has discussed, the thyroid is such an integral part. Also, our hormones play a very significant role. Unless they are partnered and married together, and as I say, play in the sandbox nicely together, we have an issue with our hair growth cycle, and that life cycle gets broken. So, Nataliia, though, back to your point, so gut flora regulates our estrogen and also our thyroid hormones. And these particular hormones, though, are vital for our hair growth. We know that. So estrogen plays a role in that transitional phase between all the phases of hair growth. So meaning not only does it stimulate and support the anagen in the growth phase, it also really helps strengthen that catagen phase to where the hair might perhaps stay there longer. And then on the telogen phase, or that resting phase, the estrogen increases the amount of time that the hair spends in those phases, which is a great thing. So when estrogen declines, hair loses the protective benefit that it offers and transitions automatically into that catagen phase. So again, summarizing, the estrogen properties that are living in that hair life cycle are best at their peak or their highest productivity when the hair's in the anagen phase and the growing phase, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Yes. So our the female hormones play a very important role in the hair growth cycle. That's why we have to test for them. So when we check our patients or clients, when we check for their thyroids and nutrient deficiencies, what else do we check? Mm-hmm. Is the female hormones.
Of course.
Yes.
Great. Oh no, that's terrific. So again, for the listener, just remember, we're talking about a whole body approach here. So yes, today we're speaking of gut flora, and we're speaking of words I can't even pronounce, actually, but in gut bacteria, whether it's good or bad. However, our entire principle behind this is that don't stop at the scalp. the hair loss is really continuing much deeper. And Nataliia has many other opportunities to share why and how the thyroid is so important and why the gut health is really going to make a difference in that true cycle of the hair growth.
Exactly. And yes, exactly. Whatever the reason, the thinning of the hair or losing hair is not an experience anyone would wish for, right? It is key to understand that as high as 70% of our immune system lives in the gut, right? The good and bad bacteria. When you take care of your gut, it can have an enormous effect, not just on your immune system, your energy level, but also on your hair. So let's just briefly talk about 10 ways you can improve your gut health and your hair health.
Okay, get out your pen and paper. If you're walking, you better save this episode.
Exactly. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, I'm going to give you a guide that summarizes all these points that we talked about in this podcast, but you have to stay to the end to hear how you can get your hands on that guide. So back to the 10 ways that you can strengthen your microbiome, your good bacteria, and improve your hair growth. So number 1, make sure you eat your vegetables, right? Especially the leafy green ones. The vegetables are loaded with fiber, which cannot be digested by our gut or our stomach, but our bacteria actually consume that fiber, and that's how they survive. Number 2, cut out sugars and avoid processed foods. Fast digesting sugars, they're also known as monosaccharides, you can see them on the label sometimes, are digested so quickly that our little microbes, the good bacteria, don't get a chance to take a bite of them. So if you eat too many simple sugars too regularly, you can risk of literally starving your microbiome to death. Not a good thing, right? Okay, number 3, probiotics are great for your gut, right? Now we know that. They're a chock full of live bacteria that will help ensure that your gut is populated by mostly the good type of bacteria. You can get a good probiotic supplements at your local health store, but make sure you ask your doctor or registered dietitian what strains of cultures are best for you and the conditions you're trying to treat. Okay, number 4, of course, avoid antibiotics. If probiotics are good for our gut health, then antibiotics are the gut's worst enemy. Number 5, stock up on dietary sources of prebiotic. I mentioned them. Prebiotics are the food for your microbiome, your good bacteria. It's important to feed these little guys to give them the energy they need to complete their very important task of managing your nervous system and also grow your hair. Number 6, fermented foods are gut friendly. You know, fermented foods like yogurt, or if you're following a dairy-free diet, like I do and most of my Hashimoto's patient, a dairy-free yogurt is a great alternative that has also probiotics. Kombucha is becoming a very popular source of probiotics these days. And of course, if you love some kimchi, go ahead and enjoy it because it's very good for your tummy.
And my favorite, let's have a little ginger with our sushi.
Oh, that's a good one. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay, number 7, try to cut back on the red meat. Now, aside from the fact that these days many meat brands are known for raising their livestock with antibiotics, which is detrimental to your gut, you know that, right? There have been several studies that show that healthier microbiomes actually live in people that are vegetarians. Now, vegetarians' gut, for example, will have a significantly smaller number of disease-causing bacteria than in people that eat meat. Now, it is still unclear if this fact is due to the lack of meat being consumed or the fact that vegetarians and plant-based individuals tend to consume a great deal more fiber than the average person. So, number 8. It's past your bedtime, what I called. Getting enough rest is so important. Studies have shown that people with Erratic sleep patterns run the risk of disturbing their microbiome and running the risk of developing inflammatory disease. I mean, how crazy it is. Sleep is important for everything, right? Try to make sure that you get at least 8 hours of sleep at night. Okay, number 9, hit the gym. Your microbes feel that if they're working hard to keep you healthy, then you should be working hard too. The microbiome of physically active people are more healthy and diverse. I mean, that should be a great motivator to go and exercise. And even just walking for 30 minutes a day could really impact your gut health. And the last one, make time for you. I say, I practice approach, say no more often, explore meditation, mindfulness, yoga, establish balance in your life because, it's just good for your health overall. And the last thing I want to say that when I'm working with my clients with thyroid disorders and hair loss, I address all of these areas. We talk about diet, supplements, stress management, and of course, we run proper blood work.
Nataliia, that was so helpful. I think it gives our listener a really great way to just simplify what they need to do to improve their gut health for an outcome of amazingly healthy hair, right? So I think just in a nutshell, though, and to close, is that, and I want to leave this really important information with you, the listener, is that your diet and your gut health has one of the most impactful effects on your hair in your life, your energy, your stamina, your mood, your uptake in all environments when it comes to, as Nataliia said, working out, going to the gym. In fact, an unbalanced nutritional diet can lead directly to hair loss. Therefore, eating the balanced diet, as Nataliia talked about, with optimal nutrients and by helping promote new hair growth and a holistic, fresh outlook on life, you're always going to end up loving the way you look in the mirror much more than you will with a poor diet and poor growing hair.
Yes, Kimberly, this is a great summary. Now, as promised, I told you guys that you can get your hands on a free guide that not only summarizes this episode, but also goes into more details on actionable steps you can take to improve your gut health. Click the link in the show notes and download your free guide now. And thanks for listening.